I was 16 and a virgin. Just about to go into my senior year in high school. It was a hot summer in the middle of the 60s. You remember, the sexual revolution. We wore t-shirts, make love, not war. I had a button that said, free love. So what was I into? Pretest for the SAT. That was my summer. My family had moved from a house to a high-rise apartment in Jamaica, Queens. So my mom got me aside and told me the secret of why we had moved there. We couldn't even open the window. We could smell the noxious fumes from the bus. We could feel the subway rumbling from 3 blocks away. She told me that after all the years of drinking and fighting, that they were going to get a divorce, my parents, and my mom needed to be close to the city to get a job. So this was pretty tense. My dad and mom took one bedroom, and my 2 sisters and I were crowded into the other bedroom. And it was so small we needed bunk beds. We had 3 bunks. And we took turns rotating who had to sleep at the top. My 2 sisters, like my mom, were very shapely and sexy. Me, I was skinny. But I knew a lot about sex from books. My dad's library next to Shakespeare was an encyclopedia on sex. So my nose was in that book a lot. What are you doing, Janet? Studying. I read so much about sex that I thought I must be a nymphomaniac. But I wasn't having any sex, so then I thought I might be frigid. So my dad came home one day with barbells so that I could exercise and develop my chest. It was so embarrassing. I just wanted out of there. And just then, I get a phone call from a woman at my church, and she was a nurse at summer camp in New Jersey, in the country. And she needed, while she was the nurse, she needed someone, a babysitter, to take care of her kids, so she offered me the job. Well, I didn't ask too many questions. And 2 nights later, there I was, in the cabin, in the woods, in a bunk, sleeping, next to 2 other counselors and 13 third graders. But that was fine, that was cool. And the nurse, she lived in the infirmary with her family. Her name was Carla. And she was tall and bosomy. And she looked like Liz Taylor, but harder features. And she had a husband named Manuel, who was short and burly. They had 3 little girls, and 1 was a baby. So now, I'm at the camp, and I find out that I have to take care of the 2 kids and the baby. My job was to get up before anybody else in the whole camp, and it was still dark, and to walk from my cabin to the infirmary and sit and wait for baby to wake up. So I hear her kind of cooing like a pigeon. And when I finally go in, I see that she's painted a mural on the walls with her own poop. This was smelly and awful, and it was all over her and the crib and baby cleanup. My job. Oh, so the nurse had painted such a beautiful picture of this camp. She said there would be campfires and with the counselors and roasting marshmallows and singing songs. But by the time I got there, that was over. Arts and crafts lessons. Yeah, there were, for her, while I babysat. She said there would be counselors. They were college students. Counselors were college students. And she told me some of the guys were cute. and I'd like them. And some of them did come to visit me while I sat in the infirmary babysitting, and they said they wanted to check out the jailbait. So they said in the between the camp sessions on Saturday night, when they had no kids in the camp for that night and the next day, they would go into town. And I thought, oh boy, good, that'll be fun. I'll go with them and maybe something will turn out with one of these guys. And guess who got to go into town with the college students? Yeah, not me. It was the married nurse who goes with the college students into town. I really couldn't believe it. It was ridiculous. So I think, okay, there is a lake, there is a mountain, that's true. And so I figured I'll just go up to the top of the mountain and I'll watch the sunrise for the first time in my life. And so I get up a little extra early in the dark, traipse up the mountain, sit on a ledge and wait. And I wait, and I wait, and nothing happens. The sun gets stuck behind a cloud, and even the sunrise is a bust. Then even the camp director turns out to be a schmuck. I asked for one lousy thing before I got there. I asked him, I need to get to my SATs. And he promised me that he could transport me, no problem. But then when I reminded him a few days before, he has no truck, he can't take me, and he kicks me out of his office. Oh, well, thank goodness. One of the counselors, who was my friend named Chip, he had a car, and he said he would take me. He was a good guy. We were friends. He looked like Ringo Starr with a big mop of hair. He was funny. We talked and talked on the way in. He was really good to wait 4 whole hours for me to take my test. And then we hung out in the park all afternoon. And on the way home, he said, I see you working a lot. I hope that nurse is paying you. And I said, $75. He said, a week? I said, no, for the whole summer. He said, that bitch is exploiting you. And then, the nurse's husband, Manuel, molests me. Supposedly, a driving lesson on a dark road. He leans over the steering wheel, and I feel his grubby hand on my chest and a big wet splotchy kiss on my cheek. He saw my disgust and stopped. Well, the only thing that really kept me going at this camp, that made my heart beat, was another counselor named Herbie. Now, Herbie he was just tall and strong. He looked like a poet, you know, a reddish beard. And we had this kind of thing going. We didn't actually talk to each other. It was just all in the eyes, you know. It was just the eyes. So finally, Herbie says he would come to the infirmary to sit with me. And just being near him made my heart pound, so I was excited. And he walked me back to my cabin, and in a quiet spot of the woods, he took me in his arms. And he kissed me like I had never been kissed before. And it was so romantic. I felt so weak. I felt wonderful. I'm thinking, this must be love. And then he pushed me down to the ground. And he got on top of me, and he's grinding, and he's trying to tug at my jeans. And I said, stop it! I'm a virgin! And I threw him off and ran away. But I was really shaken and heartbroken by that. And the next day, when I reported to the infirmary, Carla says, Janet, Chip was just here. Oh. I examined him, and he has gonorrhea. And I'm thinking, gonorrhea, okay, that's sex, and that's not good. She's saying, Janet, did you sleep with Chip? No, we're friends. Gonorrhea is a sexually transmitted disease that is highly contagious. And you were out off the campgrounds for one whole day with Chip. And I understand you're entertaining guys at the infirmary at night. Manuel says that people are wondering about you. Oh, this was too much. I fell down in my chair. I'm trying to figure out. They're wondering if I had sex with Chip, or if I had sex with other guys and I'm spreading this disease. Oh God. Or maybe that I was the one who infected Chip. I felt totally smeared. And then the nurse steps forward and she says, "Janet, I'm going to have to test you." So I stood up and I said, "Carla, you are not going to test me. I am a virgin, and you will have to take my word." And she backed off. And then Mom and Dad came for a visit. And when Mom got me aside, she told me again, on and on, about the drinking and the fighting and the divorce, and nothing had changed. And her words were somehow so comforting. And finally, when I broke in, I said, "Mom, what is it? What is it? Can you take me home with you?" And she said, "Janet, what's going on?" And I told her everything. Well, not everything, but I did tell her about the 12-hour days and the working for peanuts and the poop-smearing baby. And she did talk to the nurse. And I got concessions. And then I got to have the summer I wanted. I got to do arts and crafts and swim in the lake. And I got to go out on the town with the college students when they went out at the end of camp. And I still had my cherry.